Previously on Prickly Goo. This formula is a way to understand who's in control of the social situation and why. Range plus extroversion multiplied by stability. Our next video on social dominance archetypes. So we have this formula for social dominance, made up of 3 traits. Range, the freedom to take different actions from the compliant to the controversial. Extroversion, what enables you to use positive emotion to connect with and influence others. And stability, resilience to being overtaken by negative emotion. We introduced this formula in the last video, but didn't tell you much about what to do with it. Now, the world is made up of spectrums and subtle differences, but as people, although we don't like to admit it, we have to generalize, put things in boxes, because it's conceptually easier. So we're going to use these 3 traits to create archetypes that embody some of the roles that people typically take in social interactions. So, for the purposes of making this video less than 3 hours long, we're going to split the traits into high and low. So with 3 traits being either high or low, that should make 8 different combinations. And yeah, looking at all these bars is not very engaging. So let's show this as what it is. A game. These are our 8 archetypes, and soon you'll probably get a sense for which of them is most like you. But as we'll see, they're situation dependent, so you probably played the role of more than one of them at some time or another. Along with the archetypes, we'll present some different power moves that people make in social dominance games. Alongside each archetype, we'll present the move that they're likely to be most effective in making, as well as what kind of moves they're typically most vulnerable to. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, isn't this just a lot of stuff that you made up? Does it have a real practical use? Is there any science behind any of it? Well, don't worry. We've created this handy flow chart to help you decide your next move. If you're thinking, cool, archetypes, then you're my kind of viewer, and you should definitely subscribe. If, on the other hand, you're skeptical of this kind of thing, well, we're going to take a look at the validity of personality types in an upcoming video, and we'll explore the criticisms there. So you should also subscribe. Okay, the archetypes. Let's start with the cub. The cub is somebody who's low in all 3 traits. There's plenty of people that regularly fit this archetype. In fact, we all do at some point, at the very least in the first few years of our lives. Sensitive and easily destabilized, struggling to communicate and connect, and unable to navigate conflict. You might think that there's nothing this archetype can do when faced with a competitive situation. But let me ask you this. What's the scariest thing you can see while walking in the wild in the northern hemisphere? A bear cub. There are advantages to being low in all social dominance traits. Other people are less likely to see you as a threat. And with some puppy dog eyes, or even better, protected status as part of a vulnerable group, there's a reasonable chance that somebody will come to your rescue. That's why this archetype superpower is the cry. Whether it's a woodsman with an axe, a knight on a white horse, a religious leader making a decree, or a stern warning from HR, there's always been some value in being seen as a damsel in distress. There are some problems with this, of course. First, along with vulnerability, it relies on your ability to convey a sense of morality, goodness, or at least trustworthiness. Otherwise, nobody's coming to help. Second, maybe nobody's available to come and help. And without that protection, this archetype is especially vulnerable to moves of aggression. Speaking of moves of aggression, here's somebody we met in the last video. The domineer. The domineer combines high extroversion and range with low stability. So this is a person who's actually quite vulnerable, but is very effective at using range and extroversion to cover it up. Often this might take the form of playfully teasing others, but when threatened, their big move is the explosion. The explosion is when somebody combines range and extroversion into a display of anger that shots others into silence, compliance, or retreat. When a person shows they're willing to launch into an aggressive confrontation if challenged, most people become reluctant to do anything to challenge them. So when it works, this move can reduce the range, extroversion, and even stability of other people. Of course, the domineer relies on everyone else taking a backward step, so they run into problems when people don't. at which point they can crumble surprisingly easily. This is why their biggest weakness is moves of fortification. Let's meet somebody who's a bit of a specialist in that area and find out more. The calmer has high stability, low extroversion, and low range. Have you ever seen that video of the bear and the dog playing? I'll link near the description. Essential viewing. So that dog is a calmer. This is really the Zen monk of the archetypes. And their power move is the rock. Yeah, the calmer's power move is to do nothing. Sounds easy, but it's harder than you think. A calmer has such a high level of stability that nothing can disturb their peace. They kind of win social dominance games by not really taking part. The only problem with this approach is that they may find themselves outnumbered by people who do take part. Maybe that's why Buddhism isn't one of the world's biggest religions. I don't know. So their limitations are shown by moves of influence. Let's meet somebody who's good at those. Meet the campaigner. The campaigner is not about to win any stare downs. They're somewhat sensitive and not great at conflict. What they are good at, though, is getting other people on their side. Remember the cub archetype? What if, as well as getting Mama Bear on their side, this little fella was able to get the backing of a pack of wolves, a local sniper, and other even more formidable opponents? The campaigner's power move is to sparkle. Others naturally gravitate toward their warmth and positivity. And this makes the campaigner effective in connecting with people and getting their support when they need it. But they do this from a place of vulnerability, and that doesn't chime with everyone. In any case, sometimes they have to face one-on-one interactions, and they might not want a one-on-one interaction with the kook. The kook has low extroversion and stability, but high range. I once heard a stand-up comedian describe his self-development arc as having gone from awkward to aggressive awkward, meaning that he's become comfortable with the fact that he's not good with people. To some extent, this describes a lot of individuals of the kook archetype. They need not be the best at getting other people on their side, but they can certainly stick up for themselves. If the kook doesn't like the way the dynamic is going, they won't hesitate to derail the train by doing something outside of social norms. Their superpower, it's the fact that they're comfortable with making things weird and taking other people out of their comfort zone. Now, given that they rely on the ability to make other people uncomfortable if they need to, the kook, like the domineer, struggles against people who are good at moves of fortification. People like the maverick, high in stability and range, low in extroversion. The maverick is the person you don't want to mess with because they're chill until they need to be otherwise. Their power move is the rattle, as in rattled snake, as in I'm just going to gently let you know with a subtle sign, maybe as little as a look, but you better stop what you're doing or you're going to have a problem. This is a strong silent type, the sort of character that Clint Eastwood plays. You're not about to overpower this person one-to-one, but as a type that doesn't go out of their way to make connections and rally the crowd, they can run into problems if people use moves of influence to team up against them. People like the connector, high in extroversion and stability, low in range. The connector, like the campaigner, is able to leverage the power of the crowd, but from a place of strength. This is the calm, confident type you will often see in leadership roles, respected for their strength and appreciated for their warmth. This is the kind of person you want as your manager. Unlike the domineer, they have enough tools available to them that they don't need to get nasty to defend themselves. However, as they're not inclined to take aggressive action, they might have difficulty when faced with somebody with even more tools. The commander. The commander is high in all three traits of social dominance, giving them a lot of options in a competitive social situation. They can challenge or enforce social norms. They can fill up the room with their magnetic presence. And they have a stability, which means they're not easily unsettled. They're really holding all the cards. And their power is exactly that, the ability to use many different moves effectively as the situation requires. So what happens when you come up against someone like this? Well, in future videos in the Social Dominance Dynamics series, we'll dive into some of the practical applications of what we've talked about here and in the previous video. In the meantime, one thing to bear in mind is that the archetypes are not permanent. Once someone's stability has been shaken, Suddenly, they might find themselves playing with the Domineer card rather than the Commander, as they find their options reduced. In the end, the point of this series is to help you answer the questions: how can I do better in a socially competitive situation? What outcome would I like? And what resources are available to me? Games of social dominance are a bit like rock, paper, scissors. The important difference, though, is that in this case, some people have both rock, paper, and scissors, while other people don't have much of anything. So in future videos in the Social Dominance Dynamics series, we'll look at how to identify what tools you have, how to make best use of them, and whether you need to work on acquiring some new ones. Thanks for watching. See you soon.